I already had this video totally shot, edited, and ready to go, and then as I was getting ready to upload it and then to go from there, I jumped onto Twitter and I saw something kind of insane. So earlier this morning, I saw this tweet from my friend Drew Lips, whose YouTube channel right here, Drew Lips. Go give him a subscription. He makes some very good content. I digress. He tweeted here, "No support for North America?" In the disclaimer for the auction for the first 100 Nothing Phone 1s, I'll talk about that later on in this video. Nothing Phone 1 is not fully supported in North America. Functionality may be impacted depending on your carrier, coverage, speed, and or blah, 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 blah. Nothing Phone 1 not fully supported in North America. And I thought what he probably thought was that this maybe just was something that was there, but it wouldn't be the case for the full launch, so just the auctioned devices, but at the full launch, maybe it would be okay. Well, then EV Leaks tweets this. Sounds like Nothing is skipping the US with respect to Phone 1 availability and network compatibility. Disappointing but understandable. Hard for young brands to achieve carrier adoption here without those deals. Not really worth negotiating retail channels at all. This is a big piece of news. So the idea that you're going to go down to your local mom and pop cell phone shop and sign up for a contract and get a Nothing Phone 1 probably out the window. You're going to be importing this thing, and then from there, how well it works is going to be a little bit hit or miss. Now, you've seen a lot of people importing devices like the Vivo X Fold, and it works okay. You may be missing some bands, or maybe some problems. I'm not like super duper knowledgeable on importing phones that aren't supported on American networks. My understanding is that they'll still generally work. You may run into some more dead areas, some problems like that than what you're used to. You may have some calling issues, I think I've also seen. At any rate, pretty big piece of news that I'm just going to stick at the front of this video. And then as soon as this bit's done, we're talking about the LEDs and whether or not they're a gimmick and all that good stuff. I think if I gave everybody in the world that follows tech a chance to decide to predict which tech YouTuber it would be that would get the first video out of a hands-on of the Nothing Phone 1, I think pretty much everybody would have guessed MKBHD, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. He's got the thing, and he put out a relatively brief, pretty shallow video. What I mean by shallow is he wasn't really able to show us a whole lot of anything. It kind of reminds me of when the original Surface Duo came out, and everybody made a video, and they couldn't turn it on, so all they could do was just be like this. Ooh, look at, ooh, the hinge. Ooh, look how thin. And that's all they could really do in the video, and everybody was like, that's kind of lame. You can't even turn the thing on. Seems a little bit silly. Similar, not quite as bad with the Nothing Phone 1. But what we did get to see was, for one, the front of the thing. We know where the hole punch is. We know where the bezels are, how thin or thick they might be. They're actually quite thin. Looks a lot like a Pixel 5. But we also got to see a lot about what those lights on the back were going to be used for. And in this video, I'm going to very quickly show you some screen snips from his video. Of course, his video will be linked in the description. Go watch it if you want to see all this stuff in real time, in live action. But in this, I'm going to show you some photos, and we're going to kind of look at what we're dealing with here, what these lights are used for, and then we need to figure something very important out. Is this a gimmick, or is this useful? And on top of that, what's a gimmick in the first place? Because it's very confusing. I've heard people say that Duo having two screens is a gimmick. I'm like, well, that's a gimmick? Gimmick seems like a disparaging thing. I don't know. Is it a feature? Is it a gimmick? I don't know. Let's talk about those. So if you don't know, this is what the back of the Nothing Phone 1 looks like, and it has a lot of LED lights all over it. There's a big LED light around the dual camera. There's one up there. There's one all the way around the wireless charging coil. There is another one down here, and there's also a little LED right there that is turned off. We'll talk about what that does here in a moment, in case you wanted to see the front of the device. But also, this is the glyph interface. That's what they call the lights. They call it the glyph, which kind of silly, kind of cool. I like it. And it shows you kind of some of the things you can do here with the glyph. You can turn it on, I assume, flip to glyph, bedtime schedule, so forth and so on. But let's talk about some of the things that the glyph is used for. So here's the first one. The charging coil, the Qi coil, will actually light up when you are either reverse wireless charging something or when you are just wirelessly charging your Nothing Phone 1. Okay, so that's cool. I think that errs more on the side of gimmick, right? Where it's like, is that really all that useful? I mean, you kind of know when your phone's being charged, when you're... Okay, that's probably a gimmick. What about the next one? When you plug it in, it actually shows your charging state on that little bar. Is that a gimmick? Well, if that's a gimmick, then the same will be true on Surface Duo 2's glance bar, where you plug it in and then you get a charging readout on your glance bar. And is that a gimmick? Is that a feature? I kind of think that's more in the feature realm. He also does show a really cool thing where that doesn't stay on all the time. So if you want to like check in on it, you just kind of give the phone a little wiggle and it whoop, pops back on and tells you where your charging state's at. I think that is actually pretty cool. You can also turn the thing on in the camera app apparently and use it as sort of a fill light. I think that's also a feature. Now granted, it's not, going to take the place of flash. There's flash on it. But if you're filming in the dark, or you're taking, like he was talking about, a picture of something up very, very close and you want it to be very evenly lit, I think that's maybe going to be kind of useful. That's kind of cool. And then here, lastly, is that little red dot that lights up when you are actually filming. It's literally an I'm filming light. That's pretty cool as well. And it might be good. This is not probably a good phone for creepy people that want to film people without them knowing. You got a light little tattletale on you now. And then lastly, you can actually set a pattern of horrible flashing along with your ringtone. So that theoretically, whatever your ringtone might be, I believe he said you could actually set a pattern to a contact. So back in the day when people would all have, your phone would have different ringtones. No one really does that anymore, but you could literally have a flashing pattern set to a particular contact so that you would just see the pattern and know who it is. I worry that myself being rather photosensitive, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I'm like, don't think I'm going to be using that should I ever wind up with a nothing phone one. But it's there, and it's relatively interesting. So firstly, I just kind of want to know your guys' thoughts on each of these features. Is it a gimmick? Is it not a gimmick? Is it a feature? Is it something you would actually use? And also, we just love to see a conversation about what's a gimmick and what's a feature. Is a gimmick just a feature that you wouldn't use? Does that make it a gimmick? I don't know what any of this stuff means. I know what a gimmick means in professional wrestling, and how does that relate? Who's to say? I also do want to mention, though, that they are actually already selling the Nothing Phone 1. They're selling the first 100 devices, and they're up for auction on StockX. Perhaps by the time you're seeing this, they may already be gone. Someone has bid $3,000 to try and get one of these things. And basically what you're going to get, you can see your very small edition, and then it says 1/100. So you're going to have one of the first 100. Maybe it's a collector's item. I don't know, kind of interesting, I guess. I will say this, though. I said the other day that I did not think this thing looked much like an iPhone because of the fact that the way my brain works, I'm a chunker. I break things into chunks, and if I look at each section, like here's this section. Does that look like an iPhone? No. What about down here? No. I will admit that from this angle, if you just smoothed it all out, right? If you got rid of all of these details, that does look a bit like an iPhone. From that angle with that rail and that shape, I can see where people are coming from. I don't want everybody to think that I'm just being obtuse and I'm acting like I don't see what you're saying. I just feel like you're not seeing what I'm saying, that all of these details matter. It would be like saying, here's two paintings, and they're both rectangular. They're the same exact shape. One is a painting of a mountain. The other is a painting of a river. And some people are saying, they look the same to me. They're both rectangular. And I'm saying, but you're ignoring the stuff on the painting, all those details, which matter. And I would argue that these details are different and that they do, in fact, matter. That's neither here nor there for this video. $3,000 for one of the first Nothing Phone 1s. This device rumored to be maybe $399 at launch, and you're going to pay almost 10 times that for it? That seems a little bit crazy to me, but who knows? Maybe it's the next great phone brand, and we're all going to be jealous that we don't have one in 10 years. Probably not. But anyways, back to the original topic. Guys, please sound off in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friend.